Well, there's several, actually 9 flying saucers, flying discs, that are out there of extraterrestrial origin.
People, always said, well, how did you feel? How did you feel when you first looked at the craft? It's not excitement. It's an ominous feeling. It's just we're so used to something else. Mm-hmm. It's like, people say, well, that must have been so cool. No, it was not cool at all. It's like I actually wanted to go back out. It's a really creepy feeling in there. Galileo was the project I was involved in that dealt with the power and propulsion system of the craft. This is where they talked about reverse engineering extraterrestrial equipment. This is when I really realized, okay, we are reverse engineering something that some other entities made. This is where it became real for me. And if they have a machine that is producing its own gravitational field, they really want to know how to make more of those.
Do you ever wish you could forget what you saw?
Oh, no, not at all. No. No, I want to see it again. I want to know more about everything there.
If you could ask somebody who worked at S4 right now, right? If you could talk to them right now, what's something you'd ask?
What did you find out? Where did we go from there? I mean, tell me anything.
Yeah.
Tell me, how was the power generated? How did the components communicate to each other? What range did they work at? Just tell me anything. Fill in any blank at all. It's like having a crossword puzzle with nothing in it. Just please put a letter anywhere, and I'd be happy. He rotates the emitter further than he did before, and a little black dot, a little ball forms there. And as I walked out under the craft, I couldn't see the craft. As I got closer to it, the craft just turned into sky. What I was seeing was the light bending around the craft. Imagine if you could control that, right? What you could do.
If you could have taken one small item from the hangar with you, what would it be?
From the hangar.
Or from the lab.
That's kind of a trick question there. Boy, I just don't want to get into that.
All right.
Okay?
All right, yep.
Yeah. I mean, actually, to answer the question, I may have already done that.
Do you like the sound of your own voice?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Yeah, I don't really like it, but I have to deal with it.
Yeah, no one does. Well, especially after doing this documentary.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you ever get sick of watching yourself on video? And
I can't tolerate myself on video. It's just like listening to your voice. It's anytime I look at myself, I'm disappointed. I mean, I never meet my own specifications. If I look at a sketch I made, oh my God, how embarrassing. So
yeah,
I don't know. I don't live up to my own specs.
I think everybody's their own worst critic. I've had to overcome that in the decade-long, incessantly filming and hearing myself and then editing myself on top of that. It's enough to make you never want to do it again. But I gotta climb that hurdle every single time.
Yeah.
So we're in this together. All right, Bob Lazar. Welcome to the skiff.
Yeah, thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, good to have you here. Thanks for doing this. I really appreciate it. I know that these interviews, I know that you rarely do them, and not because you're being evasive, but because you feel like you've told your story.
Yeah, I really have. It's I thought initially I did one story and then I made a videotape and thought that would be it. And if anybody wanted to know the story, they could just play the tape.
Yeah.
But people had other questions, other things happen, and so I do it. I don't really like doing any public appearances, but once in a while I stick my head above.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it, and I'm sure everybody watching, or most people watching, appreciate it. yeah, this undertaking of doing this project with Luigi, this Project Gravitator or S4, the Bob Lazar story. I mean, this has been something you've been doing for almost 3 years.
Yeah, it was after doing Jeremy Corbell's film, I really thought that would be the end. And I had really no interest in doing anything further at that point.
Yeah.
And, was contacted by Luigi. I think I kind of, skipped taking his phone calls here and there for a little while, but eventually we hooked up and he said, look, it was so motivated and said, just let's show exactly what you saw. And, eventually I relented and said, okay, let's go for it. I'll tell you exactly the way everything was. If you want to do graphics, I'll correct everything to exactly what I saw. And I mean, to my surprise, he really, really did it. The graphics I've seen on the CGI looks like it was literally downloaded from my brain. Yeah. It's impressive. I can't tell it from reality. It's exactly like so. I'm anxious to see the upcoming film because it's from the little clips I've seen. It's it's what I saw.
That's an incredible statement and a great testimony, to the project. I myself have had the opportunity to see select clips and even, try the VR version.
That's really cool.
And and I mean, the one thing that struck me putting this on for the first time, and for someone who's been following your story, your journey, and really trying to like dig into this and try to make connections and, figure out, what's going on with this project right now. Putting this mask on and being in that place, to me, I thought I was excited at first and then an overwhelming sense of dread.
See, that's amazing because that's exactly how I felt. And for him to be able to present that on film, it's surprising to me that can be conveyed that way. Because when I walked in there, people, always said, well, how did you feel? How did you feel when you first looked at the craft? And it's not excitement. It's an ominous feeling.
Yeah.
And when I showed it to my friend, or Luigi showed it to my friend, Gene Huff, who I had confided in at that time, he said, wow, it's really creepy. It's almost an ominous feeling. I said, that's exactly it. How do you get that feeling through that? So to me, that's what told me Luigi hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
Because I can't describe it, but you experienced it too.
Yeah. And I think I'm excited for people to experience that, if that's even something to get excited about, if people, feeling terrified. Yeah. But it is this, it's almost so strange because you understand pardon the pun, but the gravity of this situation, right? When you're seeing human technology so primitive compared to this, pristine, beautiful, perfect vessel that's just sitting there with wires coming out of it, of extension cords. And right. There's just that dichotomy of our tech versus theirs. And the fact that this is like hidden in a hillside somewhere,
right? And
that you're there and you get to witness it is really impressive. But I mean, the dark pewter color of this craft doesn't help. I mean, it also,
no, nothing. I mean, it has no human marks on it. There's nothing is superfluous. There's nothing extra on the craft. Not a line, not a bump. There's nothing stylized. Everything there has a specific function.
Yeah.
And there's really nothing that we make like that. And also, everything has different shapes in our world. Everything has sharp corners or round corners, but everything in the craft didn't. It was all the same material, all the same sheen, all the same radius of curvature on everything. It's really a weird environment. And even the way light plays itself inside there, I was talking to Luigi about this, when he was trying to get the craft to work, because he has it working in a actual physical environment. And we can put in spotlights. And in the one time I was inside the craft, they had the little tripod halogen lights set up inside. So there were some other guys working, and we came in to see the placement of the reactor. And the lights were on full brightness, and they didn't light up the inside. They lit up where they were shining, but it doesn't refract anywhere. It really, it doesn't. You can have a light shining straight at a wall here and coming back trying to work here, and you're working in the dark, and it's just a really weird environment. But the fact is, that happened in Luigi's simulation, which again really impressed me, because I said, apparently you really got it, because it's not the material. Apparently it's the angles.
Yeah. And I mean, not only that, it just, for a lot of people out there, I think it validates what you're saying at the same time, because, to say something like that prior to making it, it almost doesn't make sense.
Oh, right.
Right. So when you say, oh, we put the lights in the craft, these halogen lights, but it didn't get brighter, it stayed dark. You think, well, I mean, just turn the brightness up on the lights, right?
Yeah, that's nonsense. Yeah, but Luigi, I think he said he turned it up to 600% and it still didn't get brighter. And I said, that's exactly it.
Yeah,
that's exactly
how strange.
How it was. Yeah.
And that's partially because, I guess, the non-reflective sort of matte metal almost that was absorbent, I guess, light absorbent.
Yeah, but it wasn't that absorbent. It wasn't, what do they call it, Vanta black or anything that to suck light in. No, I mean, it was a pewter color. It should, but that's how it works.
Just
inside.
Non-reflective, really.
Yeah. I mean, the whole craft is just kind of an enigma.
So let's go back into this project. I want to talk a little bit about meeting Edward Teller initially, and what that was like for you as a young man. I mean, and with, the documentary, there's even proof now that Edward Teller was at Los Alamos University giving a lecture on the day that you said he was there. And there's proof of that. There's footage of that.
Yeah. I'll tell you what happened. I mean, I was working at Los Alamos. It was a slow day. And in the Los Alamos paper, that day just happened to be the day I was on the front page of the paper. I mean, I drove my little Honda car to work every day that I had put a jet engine in. And sometimes I just drove with the jet to Los Alamos, and, that security would flip out about that. But it became noticed, and, the newspaper did, well, we'll do a front page thing on this guy. On that day, Edward Teller was giving a lecture at the lab. In fact, if you flip over the front page, right on there, it'll say Ed Teller giving a lecture at the lab about, nuclear weapons. I don't remember specifically the topic about nuclear weapons, but that's what it was. And it was kind of slow day at the lab, and I wanted to go see the lecture. So I left early to go there. When I got there, Ed Teller was sitting outside on the block wall by the place he was going to speak at. And I walked out, and he was reading the paper. So I walked out, and said, apparently waiting for someone or waiting to let them in. But I walked up and introduced myself, and I said, hey, I'm Bob, the guy on the front. And anyway, we got to talking, and, it was really cool because he's a guy out of history.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Big time. So that was really neat. And, went into, watch his presentation, so on and so forth. Time goes on. I eventually leave the lab, start a business of my own, and start contracting with the lab instead of working for him. And then, move to Las Vegas, and have been out of the scientific community for a while, and just kind of started missing it, and said, I got to do something else. So I started sending resumes out, and sent one to him. And, getting a few back here and there, and finally get a response from him saying, I think there's some people that might be interested in you. And he gave me a contact at EG&G Special Projects. So I went down there. At that time, they were based at McCarran Airport in Las Vegas. Big building. And I have no idea what EG&G special projects are. But,
we still don't.
Yeah. Apparently there were special projects.
Yeah.
But went in there and, had an interview, did really well, and kind of went home and didn't hear anything. I thought, I guess that didn't pan out. But eventually they did contact me and said, there's another job I think you would be better suited for. Why don't you come back in? So I went back in, had a different interview, and anyway, that was the job for S4.
How different was that interview? Like, can you give us...
It's the same. It's just different people.
Different people?
Yeah, it was just different
Were the
people.
questions more scientifically oriented, or were they personal?
No, the second set of questions were almost exclusively what I did in my spare time. The first one was
like
all
hobbies?
Technical stuff. Yeah. What do you do? What do you do when you leave work? What do you do here? What have you built anything? It was
Wow.
all after the fact questions. So
did that strike you as like a little strange?
Really, really unusual. So I've never run into that before in any interview. And it's just kind of like they were taking the information from the first interview and just adding any kind of personal stuff to it. I mean, do you drink? Do you go out, after work? Do you go, running around to bars and things? And, anyway, answering all that stuff and, went back home, but eventually they called me.
Yeah. And at this point, you're like, cool. Got a job. Nice.
Got a job. Nice. And what they said, it's advanced propulsion technology, and it's it was supposed to move into a 2 weeks on, 1 week off thing where I would actually stay out at the test site. So
you were already doing a lot of work on propulsion yourself with like the jet engine, but your passion as well is sort of propulsion. Blowing stuff up.
Yeah. I mean, anything to do with a jet or rocket engines, or anything high energy, microwaves. If it's just harnessing tremendous amounts of energy and controlling it, I'm on board with that. And
this seems like a perfect fit then.
Yeah, I guess it. Well, yeah, as it turned out to be, exactly harnessing tremendous amounts of energy and focusing it the way you need it. There was a dream. Really?
So you get a call to get this job, to get this position. And can you take us through your first day as you remember it, if you remember sort of the first day? I'm sure like now after all these years, it's probably a conglomerate of all sorts of memories.
Yeah,
but
it does. I can do the first day, but I can't separate the
first from the fourth
because they begin to fuse together after 35 years.
And sorry to interrupt, but like just so people understand this as well, because Luigi actually gave me a really great example. He goes to me and he says, have you tried remembering what your third grade classroom looks like? And I go, yeah, sort of. And he's like, what color were the chairs? I'm like, whoa.
Yeah. Those are questions people ask me. Yeah, and they get really upset. So you can't remember, can you?
So
I went,
let's put that out there.
No, I can't. Well, obviously this is all made up. I said, it's not, but yeah, I mean, give me a break.
Yep.
The first time I went out there, I was called out to, again, EG&G special projects. So I went there, and like I said, that's at McCarran Airport. Now you can go out of the back of that, and that's where they had the Janet flights, which were the 727,
737, 727.
Yeah. They were jets with the red stripe on them. Yeah. Anyway, they were only used by the government at that time to fly back and forth to Area 51 or the other, to the different test site areas, to Tonopah and back from Las Vegas. So I flew that, and that landed at Area 51. That would be my first, Area 51 proper, Groom Lake, is where we landed. And then I was taken into a room there, and that's where we went over all the security protocols and, what was expected of me, and, signed all kinds of security forms, so on and so forth.
You were alone during that portion? During that flight?
During that flight, Dennis Mariani, who was my supervisor, very military-looking guy, short hair, looked like he just walked out of the Marines, no sense of humor whatsoever. Just followed me everywhere, and he was kind of my shadow at the time.
Yeah.
But
did he have like a sense of humor at all or anything? Was he just like he was straight guy?
He was dead. No, nothing was funny to him at all. And
sounds like a fun time.
Yeah. He was a creepy dude to hang out with. So anyway, we're there. The first day was really just signing that stuff, and that was about it.
Yeah. I want to talk about something that happened recently that I had someone reach out. You know this. I had someone reach out to the channel who was a pilot at one of these planes, right? Who was contracted to EG&G during those years that you were there, and recalls meeting Dennis over a dozen times. And
everybody knew that guy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Developed a relationship with him. And, I'll keep him anonymous. He was actually supposed to come on here.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, we had arranged everything. And then, and he was very nice, a very nice guy, but then all of a sudden just dropped off the face of the earth, blocked my number. Yep. And he was verified. So it was the first time, I guess, we were going to get a pilot from one of these, planes to come on. But I guess, he may have gotten dissuaded at some point, which I don't think is surprising to you.
No, it's not. I hear stories like that from George Knapp too much. Oh, why we got a guy that knows you? I mean, he's seen you there, and so on and so forth. And we're talking to him tomorrow, and tomorrow comes and goes, and the next day comes and goes, and and then George has some story that connects to that, and we're never talking to him again, and he's gone. So,
but sufficient to say that he places Dennis. He called him John. Was like his nickname, I guess, or his middle name or something. But he places him there. And then so you get there, you fill out these papers. On that first day, is that all you did? Did they bring you to the site on that day, or did you go back home?
I think that was all that happened that day, because we went there late. I think like I said, a lot of the days fused together. Yep. I think we went there late, did the paperwork, and I went home.
Yeah.
And the next time they brought me to the site.
Mm-hmm.
Push a realist far enough and he comes into a nominalist. Push a nominalist far enough and he turns into a realist. What does that mean? Well, it means the same thing as if you investigate matter thoroughly, you turn up with mind. If you investigate mind thoroughly, you turn up with matter. So investigate you and you get the external world. Now what happens if you investigate the external world? Well, you get you. How are things like when we're not looking up? The act of knowing changes what you are knowing. Knowledge of something is the same as action upon it. You may just observe things and write them down. The really good knowledge is always accumulated by an action upon the world to see what changes that action makes.
So the next time you get in, you land, you go to the waiting room, I guess, or some type of compartment where they hold you until the bus comes?
Well, not at that time, because the bus, the second time the bus was there.
On the tarmac?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or close to it. And again, I was with Dennis, and we went into a bus, which was a, navy painted school bus with blacked out windows, and just sat down, right at the front seat, right where the, big bar is, and sat there, and Dennis sat across from me, and the entire way we're driving down, there was like a 15-20 minute drive or something south. Dennis is just staring at me, which is so I just keep
creepy.
looking out the front window, and it's just a weird guy. Yeah, so
maybe some type of intimidation technique, because that's something
I don't know.
You weren't a stranger to over there. Like they would, I've heard you say they would regularly like check you, like to almost like a fear tactic. Like they would, very military.
Yeah, certainly after that.
Yeah.
The security at S4 was like those guys train all the time, and they're just waiting for something to go wrong so they can do something. It's like a football player training all the time and never getting to play a game. So as soon as an opportunity comes up, they're excited. But Yeah, then we went past where the hangar doors would be at S4 because I couldn't see those, and around the side, and we got out of the bus and went into a single door, on the side of this hill. I mean, I couldn't really see anything. It was just, a short area that Dennis led me into.
And sort of this like unceremonious, sort of unromantic entrance. So there's just like random door in a hill.
Dirt and it was just nothing. It wasn't, well kept or anything, and went in there and there was a, small room and, a guard desk and, very uneventful.
So while you're driving, you said you drove past the doors, the hangar doors. You didn't see them.
Not that time. I only realized I passed them
because of
in the future, when I saw them. But once we made the turn, we had already passed those. But we get to talk about this now because at this point, everything will be, I think, available to talk about. But there's a picture of those doors. So by the time this comes out, that'll be publicly available. But that picture... You're talking about Luigi's
yes.
image?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Or, I mean, there's also a guy that, did that on Google Earth.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, but there's the Luigi's image.
That's perfect. It's exactly the way it looked.
Yeah. And, not only that, I mean, he's had Ron Masters, who is a spectronomy expert, look at, the pixels and everything else and deem this to be authentic, that those are indeed anomalous shapes.
Oh, right.
They're not natural. Mm-hmm. And you can count 9 doors. I mean, that is an incredible piece of vindicative sort of like just information that completely exonerates that whole story for me. How did that feel when you saw that picture for the first time? Did that stir anything in you?
I mean, it's always great to be vindicated by, to some degree, but to me, I already know that's the way it is. Yeah. So it's hard to impress me about that. Hey, what you said is right. Yeah, I know, so,
Fair enough.
So I can't get too excited about it, but, it's nice to see less people saying you're absolutely full of shit.
Yeah. When I saw that, I mean, it was almost scary. I was like, whoa, that's crazy. That's, and not to say that I don't believe your story. That's not what I'm saying, but it is something else from an onlooker, outside looking in, somebody who's trying to be pragmatic and logical about things.
No, but it's a fair thing to say. I mean, you can't believe it. You need enough information. Yeah. And if I can't provide that, then it's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, you can say, hey, I mean, what you say might be true, it might be not. And that's it. But you can't make a distinction either way.
Yep.
Without more information. You can't see it. This is just total nonsense. Well, I mean, to give me a break, look at the facts, and if the facts start piling in, it starts leaning my way, and it's just nice to see that it's been going that way.
Yeah, it's been pretty one-sided, actually. It's been leaning to your side, I think, since the beginning, in my opinion. Okay, so you get into this door. We're in this room. Is this the room where there's the scanner to get into the next section?
Yeah, there is.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's sometimes a guard in there and sometimes there's not. I do not remember if this time there was a guard there. I just don't.
Sure.
But anyway, there's the hand scanner. And Luigi's duplicated that. I don't remember the name of it.
It was the Identimat. The Identimat, like 2000 or something.
Yeah. And I guess it's a different version of it, but it's there's a bright light on top and you put your hand in the scanner, and it measures the length of your bones that are supposed to be unique. That was the first time I was putting my hand on there, and it recorded it or whatever. And then it stores your badge in it. So when you put your hand on there, your badge comes out.
Oh.
And it's a badge that has a magnetic stripe on it. And from that point on, you use it to open the doors.
Right, the doors that you're allowed in.
Yeah. Now, you can either, clip it on your, your shirt or your lab
Sure.
coat or whatever, and keep taking it off. Or as later on, I found out that Barry had a bunch of giant O-rings you can clip it onto, and then you can stretch it and let it snap back. And
Right.
the reason you do that is because, like I mentioned about the security guards before, they're waiting for anything to go wrong. If it slips inside your shirt, if you stick it in your pocket by error and it's not visible, they will throw you against the wall and give you the third degree about,
Whoa.
procedures and,
Did that
security.
happen to
So
you?
Yeah, that did. And that's why I put the rubber O-ring on and clipped my badge on that. So it was always dangling around. I never needed to take it off because
Yeah.
it had, I had it clipped on and it slipped behind my lab coat. So it wasn't visible to the world.
They were just waiting.
Yeah. It was, look, these guys had to go, if I had to go pee in the bathroom, they didn't just go to the bathroom with you. They stood there and watched you pee. I mean, they had to watch everything you were doing. I mean, security was so tight.
Yeah.
It was so oppressive.
Yeah.
It actually destroyed your will to work there.
Oh, understandably. Yeah. Yeah, that would be a big bummer. Okay, so like I'm piecing this together here on an emotional level and a psychological level. Like, first of all, you're being flown on a plane with one other person. You're being taken on this bus ride. This guy's staring you down. This military looking dude, blacked out bus driving off site. Going to this place. There's this weird shady door. You're scanning your hand like it's some type of sci-fi movie. You're getting a scanner out. Security everywhere. What's your emotional state like at this point? Do you remember?
Yeah, I do remember. I had the feeling that not everybody wanted me hired there. And, that's why I was kind of getting like the third degree. But, I tried to do what they wanted.
Yeah.
And maintain and still be myself. So, I mean, things worked out, but it was really uncomfortable and just you're not going to make much progress working like that. You can't have the military in control of anything other than the military.
Yeah.
And,
yeah, well,
it just doesn't work there.
Yeah. And as we'll come to find out that, the military is pretty much in control of all of that. And still is to, I think to a certain extent. So you get your badge. Do you immediately meet Barry? Do they take you to meet your partner? How long into the process do you think? Was it the first week or?
Oh yeah, it was the first couple days.
First couple days.
Yeah.
You get introduced to your lab partner.
Yeah, the first time I went into the nurse, which is if you walk in.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
The right off the, if you want to call that the security room, whatever. Yep. There's a hallway off to the right that goes, to the nurse, and they just do a general checkup, and then they do an allergen test on your arm.
Mm-hmm.
And as she explains to you, as the only female there, that you're going to be working with a lot of exotic materials that we know nothing about, and we want to know if you're going to have any allergic reaction to them. So they do a grid on my arm and just poked me with a bunch of different materials. And then I think I had to go back that day after that and wait like 2 days for that before I went back looking for it. And nothing swelled up or any of that
Thank goodness.
stuff. Yeah, right.
Because what's the cure for that?
Yeah, who knows? But I went back and then saw her again. And then I think there's this just general, I don't remember what the hell she said it was, but something for your immune system or something like that. I drank like a pine color. It reminded me of Pine Sol. It was that color, a deep brownish yellow color. And,
yeah.
And
opaque?
No, you could see it was translucent.
Okay.
And then I was free to go, and that day, whatever day that was, that's when Dennis took me to meet Barry, who was going to be my lab partner. And the way as I explained to you, the way it worked was we all worked on the buddy system, they called it. Everybody has a lab partner. You can exchange information ideas with that one person, and that's it. There's no talking to anybody else in any groups and things like that. And when I went in to meet Barry, saw the lab that we're going to be working in, he was like super happy to see me. Like he had been alone for a while. So, you know, I mean, he showed me around. There's kind of a whole story there, but yeah, that was the day that I first met him. And then, you know, after I was shown a bunch of things, we went back and, you know, that was the end of that day. The days were kind of short. As soon as it started getting fairly dark, I would wind up going home.
Do you know why that is, or that was just the schedule?
I think it was just because the plane was leaving at that time.
Right.
And I wasn't set up to start staying there. I knew Barry stayed there.
He lived there?
Not lived there, but I mean...
You stayed for a few days? Or?
Yeah, I think it was either you stayed there for a week and had 2 weeks off, or you stayed there for 2 weeks and had 1 week off. Something like that.
Type of rotation.
Yeah. So... yeah, I wasn't at that level yet. I was just being introduced to things.
That must have been kind of exhausting.
Yeah, it was, because it wasn't a normal work schedule.
Yeah.
The way it would work was they would call me at random times. I mean, it could even be on a Saturday. I'm out mowing the lawn or doing something, and I come in, and they'd say, somebody would call from McCarran Airport or EG&G Special Projects, and they'd say the name, you know, this is Julie from EG&G Special Projects. It is now 4:10. We expect you to be on the tarmac at 6:15. And, you know, okay, thank you, click. And so, all right, I guess I'll put some clothes on, and you get there and drive there and, you know, park my car, and at 6:15 and be standing on the tarmac and, you know, get on the plane. And that's it. So it's really weird like that and unpredictable.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know why that was. Maybe that was some kind of test in some way to see if I'd be flexible or what.
Seems like an environment where, you know, I spoke to a guy, a friend of mine, Hakeem Isler. He worked at PSYOP for a little bit in the military, and it was something that they had to go through, was like stress inoculation. They would constantly like be up in an hour. Oh, never mind. And like this, they'd be, you know, sort of dragged along emotionally just to sort of get them used to being under high stress environments. Like that was something that they would.
Maybe that was it.
Yeah. They were trying to like prep you for certain things. And so, all right, now let's get back to Project Gravitator, because we're coming into this place now. Luigi and his team did such an amazing job creating that bus ride, seeing the hangars from the bus, entering that door, getting your hand scanner, and then eventually going into the infirmary. How accurate is that infirmary?
It's 100%.
Really?
The whole thing's 100%. Like even I couldn't see the bus on the outside.
Yeah.
You know, you're seeing what I couldn't see, but that would have been what my eyes saw.
Yeah.
Because the hangars looked just like that. The infirmary was just like that. I mean, they spent 3 years working on this, trying to get it exactly perfect. And to my surprise, they did. So it's right on.
Was there anything that, because I know that like a few times, like especially when eventually we'll get into the craft and we'll get into, you mentioned before, the tripod light, but this is kind of information that sort of started arising now that the environment had the ability to jog your memory, because that's a real thing. Like if you showed me a picture of my classroom in grade 3, I guarantee you I'd start recalling things that I'd forgotten.
Yeah, that happened with Luigi too. He'd start building the rooms and say, look in here. And, you know, I said, oh, wait. No. The desk was there. Oh, yeah, wait, there was a whiteboard there. Yeah, I mean, it did bring back memories, but, you know, how could it not when you start seeing it and it becomes, you know, close to reality? There's a couple things you always forget until you see it.
Sure.
And, yeah, that really filled in some blanks, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, that must have been pretty cool. I mean, in any environment, like if you were to go back in grade 3, I'd still like to see my classroom and be like, oh, wow, this is kind of gnarly that I get to be here, you know? So in any scenario, but in this specific one, I think a little bit cooler, arguably. So, okay, you go to the infirmary, you get these tests, then you meet Barry. Barry's excited to see you. Is this where Barry breaks the news that the previous person who'd worked there had passed?
Yeah. Yeah. Once I get introduced to Barry and, everything's kind of copacetic. So Dennis leaves.
Okay.
And then Barry now is excited to show me around the lab, and he says, "I am going to show you stuff that's so awesome. I'm excited. This is great." And wait, I left out a gigantic part here. Before I met Barry, we went to the briefing room where I read, all kinds of briefing. Yeah.
Okay, let's pause here for a second.
We left out a major part. Yeah.
Arguably one of my favorite parts.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. After the nurse stuff was done, the next, it's hard to remember what came before the nurse or the briefings. I think the nurse came first, but anyway.
Yeah.
I think it was second, the briefings. I go into a room with Dennis. There is literally a stack of blue folders there. And he said, here's a synopsis of the projects going on. We need to get you caught up or at least familiarized with them until, then we can bring you in. And so I started reading through those. And that's where I learned there were several projects going on. Project Galileo, Project Sidekick, Project Looking Glass. Galileo was the project I was involved in that dealt with the power and propulsion system of the craft. And this is where they talked about reverse engineering extraterrestrial equipment. Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. But then I also thought, are they just pulling my leg? And this is nonsense. And this is just some kind of test of some kind. So I just continued reading through it. Project Sidekick dealt with the weapon potential of the craft, and Project Looking Glass dealt with the fact that it produced its own gravitational field if the flow of time can be distorted. And they're not, and again, I'm not talking about going back in time. I'm
just
talking
time
about
dilation.
Can you change time by a few milliseconds? Are you able to affect time at all? And so there was a lot to go through there, which I did.
Those three projects, the one thing that stands out to anyone who looks into that is that it's the three potentialities or the three directions you can take gravity in. Space with the craft, propulsion, time with time dilation, and then weaponization is like how to manipulate gravity. How do we maximize the manipulation of gravity, right? Weapons, time, space. Control that. That's like the Holy Trinity. Like you have that, you rule the world, right?
Yeah. Look, if you can produce gravity, if you can control gravity, you have a machine that makes gravity, and you can control its intensity, you already rule the world.
Yeah.
You don't realize the potential that has because, as I've said before, all the stuff you've seen in science fiction movies now becomes a reality.
Yeah.
Now you've got force fields. Now you've got time travel. Now you've got warp drive. Everything hinges on that. And if they have a machine that is producing its own gravitational field, they really want to know how to make more of those.
Yeah, that would be high priority. I often think of it's a good reason to keep it secret.
Yeah.
Get that in the wrong hands. You got some type of time dilating weapon or whatever that is, right?
The other side gets that, you lose.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Out of those three projects, which one do you find most fascinating?
I naturally like propulsion, but I have this real destructive streak in me, and I kind of like Sidekick. But on the other hand, all three are interesting, but how could you not be interested in interfering with the flow of time?
Looking Glass.
That's the most powerful thing of all. It's even the most powerful weapon of all, is time. But all three of them are incredibly interesting.
Have you ever heard of the chronovisor?
No.
I have a note here. There's a guy, it's an Italian guy. He was a monk, actually. I think I have it here. A Benedictine monk. Father Pellegrino Ernetti in 1950 said to have worked. He said he worked alongside Dr. Fermi, Werner von Braun, on a project of this machine that was able to peer back in time. So a machine that they could look through and take pictures of past events, and that the Vatican ended up confiscating it. It's this, deep conspiracy. Is this real? Is it not real? I don't know, but I just thought it was interesting that, in the 1950s, this actually came, he first talked about this in the 70s, I think 1970. And so that came to light with the chronovisor, which I thought was really interesting. And so when you first mentioned Project Looking Glass, I thought, whoa, that's kind of interesting.
Huh.
That
no,
they would,
I'd never heard about that.
Yeah. But either way, I see how all three of those things can be incredibly paradigm shifting for any civilization.
Yeah, and they're, all fascinating to work on.
Did that occur to you then, that like what you were dealing with was beyond anything else? Did that occur to you in that moment, like when you were reading those documents, that holy shit, this is a big deal?
If this was true.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, it did. It did. And, but I was only about 50% there.
Right.
I have no idea what these guys are going after here. And so I just read through the stuff, but I knew Project Galileo is what, I was going to be assigned to. So
yeah.
I'm all for it.
There was a whole other section of the documents, which we won't go deep on because I know how you feel about that section as well. But I have to ask still, like on maybe just a surface level, there was some hypnotic regression stuff that you did in the past to try and bring some of this memory stuff back on what those documents read. But generally speaking, there were mentions that the owners of the craft were from Zeta Reticuli. That was like
yeah.
That was what the document stated.
Yeah, there was a document that dealt with they called them biological entities that were on the
EBs,
craft. Yeah. And I can't remember the way they worded it. But anyway, they had a couple drawings of them in there. And I think there was one photograph and the rest were drawings, and it just showed it was kind of the biology of their body, where their chest was cut open and there was one single organ inside their body.
Whoa.
Kind of like if you cut open our bodies and all our organs had grown together as one general purpose thing in there.
Whoa.
And it's just the way they were inside. It also mentioned some information was gleaned from the craft that made them think it came from Zeta Reticuli, a different star system only visible in the southern hemisphere, like 30 some odd light years away. How they got that information, I'll never know.
Yeah.
Again, it was just in there. Whether or not there were aliens that actually looked like that, I'll never know.
Sure.
It was just pictures in there.
Yeah.
So I always had to make a distinction between the stuff I actually touched and knew worked that way and what they claim. There's also one of the things Barry told me when we got working together. He said, they put a bunch of crap in there. That way, if information is spread around and the garbage they give different people is different. So if people start spouting stories that you read, they know exactly who to trace it back to.
Yeah.
So I was expecting nonsense in there. So
passage material.
Yeah, I didn't give everything, 100% credibility right off the top.
I think as someone who's, pretty left brain, somebody who's like logically focused and like, hey, this is how I think I would also react the same way initially.
Yeah, you have to. And and just because people say, hey, there's government documents that say that. Yeah, there's lots of government documents. They say nonsense. It's intended that way.
Yeah.
So don't, don't be deceived just because it's, the Pentagon printed it out or some other government agency that it's 100% true.
Yeah. Don't hang your hat on it, but also shelve it.
Right. It could be.
Yeah.
Right.
Because that to me, prior to the podcast, we were talking a little bit, and you'd mentioned, like the Betty and Barney Hill. was the only other time that you heard that, and that was like back, in the 50s or 50s or 60s.
Yeah. Now I don't follow UFO
Sure.
lore or stories or UFO researchers, but I have heard a few stories. But what was interesting is, the Betty and Barney Hill story, back in the early 60s, a mixed race couple claiming to be abducted, by some flying saucer. And apparently Betty, was able to talk to the aliens. And before they let her go, she said, "Where did you come from?" And they show her a map, and, she remembers the map, and, during an interview draws it out, and they went, "Yeah, well, that's Zeta Reticuli." And the fact that it said Zeta Reticuli in my paperwork, well, that's a connection there. And so I pay attention to that. So maybe that story is true.
Yeah.
So, again, I don't know for sure, but I do know for sure how the propulsion system works.
Yeah, that's something you can hang your hat on. What I find really fascinating is that like everything that you read about Project Galileo ended up being true.
Right. That's another notch you got to move forward. Everything I read about my Project Galileo, was in fact accurate. So just maybe everything else was too.
Yeah.
So,
but also, it could just be passage material.
Maybe not. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's you got to be careful there.
Yeah. I mean, we'll move past this in a sec. I just kind of want to talk a little bit about some of the memories that came back from that. There were also sort of there was like this general impression that there was some genetic modifications that they were doing to the human race, that they were suppressing consciousness to a certain extent in these documents, as far as you can remember. Did that ever disturb you going forward, like after that, or did you really just like kind of categorize that as this could be BS?
Yeah, that really set off the BS alarm. When they said, they claim there was, many corrections to the genetic evolution of, humans and just all kinds of other, wild claims that had, no proof to back them up whatsoever. And I really didn't put much credence in it at all, so I just brushed it off.
Okay. So now you read these documents, you're getting a little more prepped. They're surrounding you with all these guards, these people, they're giving you documents to read, that's strange files.
Yeah, but I still don't know what I'm really working on. I'm still expecting a very advanced jet fighter at this point, so I think they're just testing me with all this. What if we gave you information about flying saucers? Would you tell anybody about it? No, I wouldn't. I'm staying with the program. And yeah, I'm expecting to be brought in there and seeing, the F-32 or something like that. And, that's when they brought me into Barry.
Mm-hmm. So you meet Barry. He gives you a tour. Prior to seeing the craft, obviously, you get all the propulsion stuff now. You get all the...
Yeah, he has the part of the propulsion system laid out on all that, and really can't wait to show me. And he says, "You're going to love this." And there's the small reactor, there's the gravity amplifier, and the emitter on another table. And the system is running, and, he said, "Try to put your hands on the sphere there," which I did. And when I got close to it, I couldn't. It pushed off just like the like poles of a magnet, if you ever played with two big magnets. But with my hands, I went, "Oh my God, what is this? It's a real force field." And he said, "No, just try with all your might." And I did, and you can't move an inch. The first maybe 2 or 3 inches is somewhat elastic, but after that, you're not getting anywhere. And the thing, he shut it off, and the reactor is kind of a hemisphere on a plate, and he moved it, and he said, "It's not connected to the bench," and turned it on again. And he said, "Push on it," and pushing on it. So, I mean, what he was showing me was the force was not being transferred to that. Or even if you couldn't touch it, you would think it would slide away, but it wasn't. So the force is just going away. It's not being transferred to the device that's repelling it. And this stuff was amazing me. And then he showed me what this is actually doing is powering this emitter here. And then he showed me how that worked. And then he also mentioned, and you'll notice nothing's connected together. Where are we? This is like the Twilight Zone. So this was really, really blowing me away. And like, is this what powers, the aircraft? And he said, what did they explain to you? I said, nothing. They just, I just read these briefings. And so Barry went over everything with me. And this is when I really realized, okay, we are reverse engineering something that some other entities made. And, this is where it became real for me.
When Barry went over everything that you had gone through, how long was that little brief or that Barry gave you? Was that like a 30-minute spiel, or was that like...
No, it was like a couple hours.
A couple hours?
Yeah, because every time, Barry would go, yeah, and there's this. I went, stop, and what do you mean there's this? And, we'd have to explain every last, a bit of what he's learned from that point. I said, okay, now let's go to here. How did you turn this off? And, so it took a long time of me constantly stopping him.
Yeah, in shock, I bet, just constantly.
Yeah, but it was great because I really felt like I was privy to information that only a few people had, and like, we could control the world with this stuff. But, we had no idea how it worked. So that was kind of our task.
Wow. That must have been so exciting for Barry, honestly, as well.
Yeah, he was. Yeah,
I'm thinking
really
if you're
excited about
working alone, possibly just lost his partner, don't know how long ago.
Yeah.
And then someone new comes along who's like a puppy.
Yeah. It's like a guy showing off his new car.
Exactly.
Check this out. Yeah. Right.
And he, how cool that he gets to be the one.
Yeah.
To tell you this stuff is real, with certainty and show you. Like that's got to be such a cool moment for the both of you to experience. But is this all lighthearted still? Is this all like excitement based or
initially it was that day.
Yeah.
And then, quickly things, it seemed like they were in a rush to do anything, to find out anything. So we had to get down to work eventually quickly. And a lot of it was boring work. It was not exciting. It was making small changes and analyzing different parts of the, although there were different groups that dealt with like the materials, the metallurgy of the craft and what everything was made of. And, we had dealt with more of the interaction of the components and how they actually propelled the craft. Yeah. And it was, I think it was another day or 2 days before I actually got to see the craft, because we had to know if the placement had anything to do with it. And really, they weren't even anxious to let us look at the craft. But, we kind of campaigned for that, going, look, it might be, nothing works, there's no wires anywhere. It might be that placement is critical on this stuff. We have to see how it's laid out in the craft. And it was kind of like okay, you can go in and see it.
I see.
So that's when we were, actually allowed to see it. And that's when the world opened up to me. It's like, Jesus.
Yeah.
Right? So
now, walking into that space for the first time, was Barry was with you?
Yeah, right behind me. I walked in first.
Was he like poking you in the ribs and being like, wait till you see this? No.
No. It was just
no horsing around.
Yeah, he was probably just looking at my reaction.
Yeah, just watching you light up.
Yeah.
So you see this craft. Were you prompted prior to entering the room with anything? Do you remember if they were like, hey, keep your head down?
No.
No, nothing. Just walked in.
No, the first time, I had actually seen the craft. That's actually the second time I saw the craft.
Yeah.
The first time I saw the craft, I came in through a hangar door.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where the days kind of get mixed up. I think it was the third day I was there. I came in through, instead of going around the side of the building, the bus stopped at the first hangar door that was open. So that's when I went out that way.
I see, yeah.
And Dennis led me in, and that's the first time I saw the craft. And I slid my hand along the craft as we were walking in, and that's the first time I was reprimanded by a guard. Keep your hands down, your eyes forward, and go through the door. So that's the first time I saw the craft. When I first came in with Barry from that day, was the first time I was allowed in the craft.
And that was the first time you were aware that the craft was extraterrestrial. Because prior to that, you just thought...
to that, when I came in and walked in that way, they had, where the hatch part was, they had an American flag stuck on there, reversed for whatever reason. And so I thought that's a fighter,
Yeah, that's what people are seeing.
Yeah. I think I have these days screwed up because it gets confused in my mind. But anyway, so I came in there, and still in my mind that was, an American built thing.
Yeah.
But it was, again, when I was in with Barry, and we saw the gravitational propulsion system, it working, how it repelled, and talking to him, that's when I realized, this is, a machine from another entity. And when we came in and walked in the hangar that day, I looked at this completely in a different light.
Yeah.
And we walked up the stairs they made for it. And clearly it wasn't made for a human to get in, because you had to crawl in, and you couldn't really even stand up until you were almost in the center. But, we looked around and he showed me where the reactor is and how you can look down into where the emitters are on the third level in the craft. And but that was all very amazing, to say the least.
Was there a feeling of an alteration of environment when you entered the craft as opposed to when you were outside it? Did you feel like there was a static charge, or like it was colder, or it had a smell to it? Was there anything?
No, it was just an ominous feeling.
Yeah.
Because it's all, everything's the same color. Everything has the same radius of curvature to it. The only sharp edges in the whole thing are the reactor plate that it sits on, but everything else has a curve to it. Everything is the same material and the same color. So it feels, otherworldly, when you're in there, because, human environments are full of different colors, different textures, different angles, but it's not there. It's just, it's weird. And just
almost uncanny valley type, like this isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a really, and it's just automatically uncomfortable. It's just, we're so used to something else. It's like, people say, well, it must have been so cool. No, it was not cool at all. I actually wanted to go back out. It was cool to look at it, but it's a really creepy feeling in there. It's really ominous.
Almost like you're not supposed to be there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the actual feeling. I think I said I just felt like I shouldn't be in here.
That's how I felt when I first put on the goggles.
Oh, really?
That's exactly what I said, is like, I feel like I shouldn't be here.
Yeah, that's weird that translates, into that. To me, that tells me that Luigi got it exactly right.
Yeah, you worked with Luigi for 3 years building S4, building, the bus, the cafeteria, all these like different, like the hallway, all this. But the craft is like, this is the magnum opus. This is like the thing that you had to rebuild and you had to make perfect. Now, if I look behind me here, there's like a little model that you had made, the maker's model of like the UFO, which was 1/48 scale, back in the day. But this was a totally different.
Oh, yeah.
You went deep on this with Luigi.
Yeah, this is.
How close is the craft to your memory of the craft when you see it through the eyes of S4, the Bob Lazar story in Project Gravitator.
Now I have to say, I mean, even being conservative, it's 100%. I mean, we went through it again and again. Now, I may not be recollecting it at 100%,
Sure.
but from what I remember, that is 100%. That's exactly the way it looked. I mean, there's some question, was there another bump onto the black insulating ring?
Yeah, sure.
I don't remember, but this is what was in my mind. So that's, like I said, Luigi's images are like they were downloaded from my brain. They're exact.
Seeing this thing in Project Gravitator as well in the documentary, when the doors open and it starts hovering and it goes outside.
Now, I didn't see that.
Right. But you've seen the craft elevate.
Yeah, I mean, the one time we were allowed, Barry and I were working in the lab, and then Dennis came in and he said, hey, there's a test flight going on. Why don't you guys come out? And there was one of the doors in the lab led right to the big hangar. So we could open that and we were there. So it was already out on the lake bed. So I don't know if they hovered it out there or floated it out or what the deal was. But there was clearly somebody, and this is one of the things that still confuses me to this day. It has a gravity field around it. And, that's going to bend everything from light to electromagnetic waves and all that. Yet there's a guy on a desk with a conventional HF radio or VHF radio talking to someone inside the craft. Now that should be impossible. It just it shouldn't work at all.
True.
But it did. So I had a lot of questions about how that was even working, and that caught my eye. And anyway, the craft was out there, and some time went by, and then the craft began to lift silently off the ground. There was a little bluish purplish glow on the bottom, which was just kind of a corona discharge because the craft produced high voltage on its skin, which, by the way, if you shorted it out, it didn't do anything different. So it's just like anything you changed in the craft, it didn't care about.
Wow.
So once it lifted, it just stayed there for a while. And Dennis told me, go out and go under the craft.
Dennis told you that?
Yeah. And Barry stayed there, and I said, oh, okay. So I walked out there, kind of looking up the craft. And as I walked out, I looked back toward Dennis like, am I doing the right thing? And, he pointed up to look at the craft. So I did. And as I walked out under the craft, I couldn't see the craft. As I got closer to it, the craft just turned into sky. What I was seeing was the light bending around the craft, which was just incredibly awesome. So I took a step back and I could see the edge of the craft, and I went back under it. But also the other thing that hit me at the time was it's not transferring its weight to the ground. If you have something and you're producing a force and pushing on it, it's not on a pedestal where it's taking the weight of the craft and transferring it to the ground. The weight is just gone. So I'm under it. I'm not getting crushed by it. I can walk freely, and I can't see the craft.
No wind, nothing.
No, there's nothing at all. No sound. And I step back, and then I can see the edge of the craft come back into view and walk back. And I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's an imprint in my brain that'll live forever. It's so the mass is being canceled out there. It's not being transferred down. It's not standing on a pedestal of anti-gravity. It's just going away.
Yeah, that is so weird to think about because it's so unnatural and unlike anything you would.
Yeah, but imagine if you could control that, right? What you could do. It's like I'm so jealous of their technology. So
Yeah. Okay. So in the hangar, we see this craft. Now in Gravitator, they've recreated the craft. They've recreated the flight characteristics of it. They've recreated in this in Blender and all these other softwares and whatnot. You're getting to relive this. Is there a point? And I just want to, I kind of want to make this point for the audience because I want them to eventually experience this too. And I want them to support the project and go, check it out because it will, I think, change a lot of people's perception one way or another. If you don't believe the story, if you believe whatever it is, it'll change your perception of it because it'll put you in that space. Did you feel at any point like, man, people are going to understand now what I saw? Like when you were in this, when you're watching this with your own eyes, do you feel like, oh, this will help people understand what I saw?
When I saw Luigi's graphics. Yeah, I did. Yeah, to some extent.
Does that make you feel,
Yeah, because a lot of people had just wrong ideas of it. I mean, even when Luigi released the first image of it in the hangar, you had, a bunch of people come out, oh my God, so I always thought it had some kind of landing gear. And, and people had all these other preconceived notions that was going on. Some guy said, clearly the whole thing's a lie because from what you said, it's impossible to see the American flag.
That's right.
On that. And, Luigi did everything exactly to scale and put, the camera exactly. And if you walk by, you can see
there was
the flag exactly where I said, so I thought, to some extent, it's certainly going to, prove, some of the things I said. But, you always have the people that are just really don't care.
Yeah.
They're going, it doesn't matter. This is all nonsense.
Sure, yeah.
But I'm fine with that. That's okay.
Okay, so this is the second time you see the craft. The first time you're allowed entering it. Now, just to back up, the first time you see the craft was when you were walking by through the hangar and touching it. Was this also the time you saw the officer talking to quote unquote the kid or the what they called the kids or this small whatever it was, whether it's a doll or whether it's was that at that point or was that later?
I think it was at that point.
Yeah, when you were walking through and you kind of like glanced.
I walked in and then we went straight out. There's a door straight in the back of the hangar to the right side.
Yeah.
And then the door across from that. These doors have like a 12-inch wire piece of glass in them.
Right.
And as I turned the corner, I looked in there and there were just some guys in lab coats looking down at one of the seats.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they had a mannequin or something in there so they could just see, well, how big would the creature be if it sat in the chair? And they were measuring things and looking at it. Now, I had mentioned that before, and people said, oh, well, you saw an alien, and aliens are working with them. I said, no. I think these guys are trying to figure out how big something would be if it would set, if that was a chair. Sense. So, yeah, I don't believe there was any aliens around there.
Yeah, it didn't have like a large head and like a blue jumpsuit or anything, did it?
No.
Okay.
I think they were,
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. What's interesting too is that, the chairs have some significance because you'd mentioned while you were in there, the one thing they didn't allow you to play with was the chairs.
Yeah, I wasn't. Yeah, and there's no fooling around with the chairs. Look, if they were just chairs, and I say the only reason I think Barry and I call them chairs is because they looked like chairs.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I have no information about those. They may not have anything to do with being chairs. And when you really look at it, look, there's 3 of them, in a triad formation. One of them, right in front of it, is the waveguide. Why would you ever put a chair? I mean, so you're going to sit there and there's going to be a pipe in front of your face. So it's like the worst seat in the saucer. And then there's 2 other chairs, on either side of that. They do all face to one archway. And when we were in there, Barry and I, looking at the reactor on the ground, there was another group of 2 guys in there that had light that was shining on, the superstructure has archways all around it. And whatever they were doing caught my attention because one of those archways became transparent when they were playing around with it. So these seats were aimed towards that. So, was that a window? Could all the archways do that? Were those really seats? Or is it just a coincidence that they energized that and,
Right. Was that also the archway that had the writing?
Yeah. After it stayed clear for a bit, it turned blue, and then there was writing that looked, I don't know how to describe it, but if you look at Korean and if you make it italic, it looks something like that.
Can I pull up a picture of some writing and maybe you can tell me if that looks like it? Okay, hold on. Because I just want to pull up some writing of another case that. So there's that. No, different from this.
Yeah, totally different from that.
Okay, and then I have another. I'm taking this time because I think a lot of people would appreciate like some either confirmation or whatever, so you can stop speculating about their own alien writing. This is from another sort of leak.
I bet I could find it. No,
not that either. Because this one does look a little more like Asian writing, a little bit more like kanji, or not quite it.
No.
Because there is the writing that you guys did on the Project Gravitator.
Yeah, it's much closer to that.
Huh.
It's not. Now, I'm not saying it's Korean.
Yep.
It's not. But there's lots of circles and lines.
And the shapes were doing this kind of, right?
Yeah.
Also, which is
that's
so strange.
It's weird in itself. Yeah.
Yeah. Very alien. Very on par alien.
But remember, they were playing with that system, so maybe that wasn't the way it was supposed to be.
And at that point, you were drawn to it.
Yeah, and then immediately again, pay attention to what you're doing here. That's not, that's not where you should be focusing.
Was Barry like, hey, don't?
Yeah. Yeah, we were constantly concerned about getting in trouble.
Yeah.
It ruined everything because, maybe that had something to do with the power and propulsion system. We need to talk to these guys. There needs to be free discussion for science to move forward. Mm-hmm. But compartmentalizing everything to keep everything completely secret, you're tying yourself up.
Do you think the chairs, if they are chairs, which I think they are, by the way, because
could very well be.
Low ceiling, I mean, they're probably little guys sitting in there or little genderless aliens, whatever they are. Do you think that those chairs could have something to do with the sort of steering capability of the craft?
Maybe.
Like of like, if you were sat there, you had some type of like,
maybe they were all
connection.
They were all equidistant from the reactor at that point. Mm-hmm. And, the fact they were all pointing in one direction, my guess is from the way the craft operated and traveled, if you're going to sit there, it would only be for a short time. It's not like you're going to sit there for an hour to go anywhere. Yeah. It's just going to be minutes. So because of the rate of travel. The seats, obviously, they're not padded or anything. It's just a smooth cutout that you sit in. So it's just like you're going to sit in, we're there, and, get up again. But maybe the placement had something to do with controlling the craft.
Yeah, because you look back at like other crashes or alleged crashes that happened, whether it's Roswell or Aztec or these type of things. And Aztec, actually, there was some symbols in that craft. Okay. I might pull those up and show you those, because those might actually, now that I think about it.
But it might also have something to do with, if there were, living beings, and 3 of them, maybe the reactor only puts out a field so big to protect them from inertia.
Oh, from getting
kind of a
splattered.
bubble, yeah. So they're immune to all the effects of the way the crafts operate, and they just need to sit there to be protected.
Right.
So it could just be that, just a place, just to sit for all the action to take place, and then you can get up and, we're there. Everybody disembark.
But that's interesting, though. So it's like they knew how to fly these things, obviously, to maybe a limited capacity, but they did know how to, like, the craft that was in the air that you saw was the same craft that you were in.
Yeah.
So, it wasn't like they needed you to figure out how everything sort of worked together. They had that figured out.
Yeah, and look, we keep trying to put a pilot in there. Maybe there isn't. I mean,
right, yeah.
Look, our cars and, just recently developed flying cars and stuff are autonomous.
That's
Maybe
right.
that is. It has nothing to do with it. They sit in there and just run the program. We're home or we're to Earth or wherever you're going. Nobody needs to pilot anything.
Maybe the fact that there were pilots in there doesn't necessarily rule out the autonomous theory as well.
Yeah.
They might be part of the craft.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Just a biological component. Okay. So, I mean, you got to stand in the craft. You got to, what's interesting too is that, you'd mentioned the tripod lights before and how, when you were creating the craft with Luigi for the documentary, you got in there, realized, oh, there's no light. And Luigi's like, there's no light in there. How do we see? And you're like, right, they had a tripod light. You went back, you found the exact model that they used.
Right.
You put that, shined it, turns out doesn't really light up the craft much. But one thing that struck me from seeing that, and maybe you also felt this, but you had these stairs, right, that they rolled in to like sort of crawl into the craft.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's this orange extension cable.
Yeah, I mean, there were Black & Decker extension cords everywhere, which kind of connected this thing to Earth,
Yeah.
It made it more real.
Tethered it.
Yeah, nothing's going to work without an extension cord to it. Yeah. But yeah, just to power the lights inside and other tools and things. Yeah.
That was one moment for me seeing this that really cemented this, how far we are from what we're dealing with here, is that we have this orange cable just dangling outside of this pristine, beautiful, perfect craft.
Yeah.
This Ferrari of the universe, right?
Yeah, we should. We're not even worthy to dismantle it. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, and we have this strange cable being plugged into a wall, and they're like, don't trip on that cable.
Yeah.
Okay, so you get to go in there, you get to play around with things. Now, you see the panel go transparent. I had mentioned to you before the podcast as well, is really, really interesting because in the Aztec case, again, I bring back the Aztec case, there was a witness at Wright-Patterson who had also seen the craft go transparent due to an injection of like high voltage. So again, this idea of like high voltage energy, a lot of weird things start happening, and he could see through the craft, but it was like blurry.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of all fits because first of all, we know there's high voltage on the craft because it lifts off the ground. You can see it and we can measure it. So, there's a high voltage potential, on there. And, the craft wasn't perfectly clear. It was kind of looking like through a shower door to some degree. Not totally.
Like
distorted.
refraction?
No, just, that milky white, maybe sandblasted look or something like that. Just not translucent, not transparent.
Right. Almost camouflage.
Yeah. But I mean, you could see people out there. You just couldn't really identify them, so,
Really interesting. Yeah. It's interesting because it's, as someone who's looking into this stuff, I'm piecing together like all these different things. And now I'm like, wait a second.
Yeah. Well, you have knowledge of a lot more, other UFO info. I don't really follow any UFO stories or lore or researchers. So, you could probably plug more things together than I could for sure.
Okay. So craft out of the way. we're back in the lab. We're doing some tests. Now, there's something that I did want to touch on. There was 2 instances with some of the tests that you did that really, really stood out to me, and I'm sure stood out to you to a greater degree. One involved time dilation, it would seem, with a candle.
Yeah.
And the other was what only I can describe as like a miniature black hole.
Okay, this is when Barry, we were working in the lab, and when he has the entire system connected together, so the gravity amplifier gravity emitter is emitting.
Yeah.
So it's producing a gravitational wave, and he can rotate the emitter, and the effect changes the output. So one thing he showed me was he took a candle and lit it and put it in the focal point of the emitter, and he turned it. And normally the flame is, moving to some degree, and because of convection and, it went out from the heat. And the flame stopped. And he said that flame is frozen in time. And I said, it can't be, because I can see it. If it was frozen in time, there wouldn't be photons emitting from it. He said, no, it's frozen in time. Look at it. And I went up, inspected it. I couldn't get my hands in there because he said not to for whatever reason. But clearly the candle was frozen. And he moved or rotated the emitter, and it became a candle again. And he said, watch what happens when we go way past that. And he turned it now I can see if the emitter's sitting there, and you can see across the table, you can see the other wall and our desks and that sort of thing. So he rotates the emitter further than he did before, and a little black dot, a little ball forms there.
How big about?
About like that.
Like a baseball?
Yeah, or maybe a tennis ball, something like that. Maybe even a little smaller. And he said, that's the light bending away from there. So I got right up to it, as close as I could safely come to it. And it was a completely dark spot there. It was like a little black hole, but it wasn't affecting anything else in there. I mean, if it was a black hole, there'd be books flying and things getting sucked in. But it was just sitting there quietly, only bending light. And how can you do that, even if you had a machine that made gravity? How can you selectively pick photons to distort or move or attract to, and nothing else? So, everything was amazing about this.
You had a laser test too that you did with this, didn't you?
I did that at home.
Oh,
yeah, that's a different story. Yeah, that I did at home.
I see.
But that's I'm kind of so upset with myself to some degree that things didn't work out, and I didn't allow him to do that, because I have such a desire to know more about what we had there. And I to this day, I wonder what, it's been 35 years, what they came up with. Maybe they know everything about it. Maybe they haven't learned one thing. I mean, I'd like to know, I'd like to say, I'm sorry, can I get back into the project?
Yeah. I hear that. Do you think Barry's still working there?
35 years? No.
Probably not. Probably retired.
Yeah. He'd be an old guy.
Yeah. Maybe he's watching this.
That'd be great.
Anything you want to say to Barry?
Give us a call. Yeah, right.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's, those experiments are wild. Seeing a flame stop, it must be so jarring. Because I can show you some illusions after this. Yeah. That are like kinetic and they will trip your senses. They will absolutely play with your perspective. Okay. And create anomalous visual, perception of events that should be completely impossible. They'll change even how things move in time. They will, there's certain illusions I have. But those are illusions made, and I know how they work.
Yeah.
So when when you have something that you try to look at and you just can't figure it out, and your brain glitches out with like how it works, and a lot of people experience that with magic tricks when they're trying to explain it and they just can't, and then eventually they have to give up and they have to just unwillingly suspend their disbelief because they're
right. They just can't.
Yeah, they just can't figure it out. That must have felt like a bit of a magic trick to you, in the sense that not only did it fool you, but you probably also got disenchanted from it to a certain extent.
Well, yeah, certainly those that I can't interact with, you can just see those two tests.
Yeah.
But things like feeling the field on the reactor where you can interact with it and you can shut it, turn it on and shut it off. And it's not disenchanting, that's frustrating, because I can touch it and I can see it's working. And I want to know how to make this work, and again, walking under the craft, I saw this thing in the hangar and I'm looking above it and I can't see it. And I take a step back and it's there. I must know how this works. Yeah. It's just, it is a very driving factor.
I can see that about you as well. As we walked in, I have this shelf filled with like knickknacks, puzzles, and just whizzing gadgets. It's kind of like a sort of toy factory over there, and I have all these little trinkets, and I could see you immediately as you picked one up, and I told you, oh, that's a puzzle.
Yeah, that will kill me.
You had to put it away.
I stayed here. Yeah, right.
So, I think we suffer from the same affliction when it comes to, wanting to know how things work, and just things will bug me. Like I have to figure it out. And that's the other thing about magic, is that like there is a method for everything, even if it looks impossible.
Right.
There's a method.
Right. As there is for this,
What's, after you got out of there, after you've worked with all that stuff, what would be your best educated guess as to how some of that works? Like, what's your best working theory? I'm sure you've thought about it long and hard. Like, what do you gather from all of that? And like, this is kind of what I have to go to bed with at night.
It's kind of hard to say. It's kind of hard to say because it's a lot of it's just a guess. I mean, the reactor itself appeared to be powered by a super heavy element 115. They've since synthesized that, but what we had was a stable version of it. And, there are isotopes of many elements. Some of them, they're all the same element, but some are stable and some are unstable. This one was a stable version of element 115. Clearly, you said there's something unique about that. Because that was in the reactor. And from what we can ascertain from X-raying the reactor, the base plate, it looked like a little accelerator, like a little cyclotron. So it looked like there's some nuclear manipulation going on there, where they're bombarding the target, the element 115 sample in there, and it's producing some kind of effect, producing some kind of gravitational effect. And I'm not even sure it's gravity. As time goes on, I'm increasingly convinced that there's another force of nature, that gravity is only the property of mass, where you get enough mass together, it has gravity. Little mass, just little gravity.
Gravity A.
Yeah. Well, gravity.
Gravity.
Actually, gravity B.
Yeah, or gravity V, right?
Yeah, it's just on a large scale. You get a whole planet. Yeah, it can pull rocks towards it and hold people on it, and that thing. It's not a very strong force, but we call this anti-gravity because there's nothing else to call it, because there's no other propulsion system, and it lifts up and it ignoring gravity, so we call it an anti-gravity. But I think there's another force that we haven't discovered. And that's what this machine is taking advantage of. And I think we're just left to discover how it works, or even discover the force itself. But I don't think it's actually gravity. I think it's just another force that repels. So I don't know where to go with that, but
Sure.
I just I increasingly believe that's the case.
Because it doesn't behave like gravity should. Like gravity shouldn't be manipulatable to that extent.
No, and there's no evidence that gravity works that way.
Right.
So I think there's a good chance it's something else that works similar to it.
Or that's interacting with gravity.
Or interacts with it, yeah. But we just haven't stumbled on it yet. But, or maybe we have. Like I said, 35 years has gone by and there's been other people tinkering with that stuff. And I can only hope so. It's just I haven't seen anything flying around that works like that.
Yeah. Man, I would give anything to see something flying around that works like that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but once you see it, you've seen it.
Yeah.
I mean, the drive you have, to know and, boy, I'm really into UFOs. I like to see that, it's like really wanting to see a movie. I can't wait till the next Star Wars comes out. I'm so excited and all that, and after you see it, it's gone, I mean, once you see how the technology works and all that, and, people are, how come you're not, following this or going to UFO conventions and stuff? The amazement's gone. I see what's going on. I got to touch it. I got to work with it. And, the only thing that's driving you is not knowing. But once you know, it takes the wind out of your sails.
It's kind of like a magic trick.
Yeah, there you go.
But
that's exactly like a magic trick, really.
Yeah. Well, what I enjoy about magic now is being able to see it in others.
That's why Barry was so excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. He was able to show you the magic and then ruin the magic for you.
Right.
All right, I got a little list of things I just want to get through real quickly about Gravitator, about, all this stuff. This here, we pretty much ran through all of that. There are rumors, just to clear the air type deal. There are rumors that underground facilities at S4 existed. Were you ever aware of that? Was that ever brought up? Did you ever hear of that or see anything?
I didn't hear or see.
Nothing.
No talk about it.
Yeah.
I can't say that they weren't there.
No, yeah.
I did not see them. I never saw any down staircases. I never heard a person talk about it. So
cool.
I just don't know.
Great. There was one time you got to see down the hangars. This is another, again, if you guys are looking to experience what, some of what Bob experienced, check out Project Gravitator, because there is a point where you walked into the hangar, the one time all the hangar doors were open.
Yeah.
And you quickly got to see down this massive silo, huge hangar.
The outside doors were closed,
yep.
But they were large inside bay doors for each one. And one time I went in there, all those bay doors were open, and I walked in from the lab door, which is directly across them all, and you could see inside every hangar, a part of a craft. I think you could see at least 3. After that, it was too far away to see. But yeah, you can see there were other crafts, and there was obviously a lot more going on than I was being exposed to.
Yeah, there were probably other propulsion teams working.
Yeah.
Simultaneously.
No doubt.
You saw this Jell-O mold one.
Yeah, there was a Jell-O mold. There was one that looked like a Carnival hat, which was just square, and that was standing up and had a hole through it, like it had been shot with a projectile from underneath, and the metal was bent up.
And that one is said to be found in the water too, right?
Yeah. The Navy is behind all this stuff. Yeah, it's I'm just fascinated what might be going on in the water. I don't know if it was the ocean, a lake, or whatever, but what has the water got to do with all this stuff in the Navy? So it's I'm fascinated by that.
Yeah, you would think if a craft like this could have transmedium capability, right? This is what a lot of, what's coming out right now is that these things are able to travel not only through air frictionless, but through water as well.
Yeah. It should present no problem at all.
Then, would that stop at water?
I don't know. I mean, would they be able to go through solid matter?
Right.
Maybe there's a limit, a density limit.
Yeah.
Maybe, liquid falls within that limit that you can penetrate through. Maybe if it increases, density increases past there, you cannot go through.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's free to they could go through mountains or, who knows? But that would even be crazier. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if I could think about that.
Yeah, I don't even know what to make of that. But in the water, it seems like a good place to hide. If you were,
since it's the planet's almost all water, you can hide an entire civilization down there, and we'd never know. Yeah,
you wouldn't have to go to the backside of the moon or to Mars or
no, especially if they could go deep. They can just hang out down there, and they have no chance of running into us.
Yeah, there's been some lot of talk of that actually being the case. We had Lou Elizondo here on the podcast at one point. I'm sure you're familiar with Lou, but he had said as well that they had footage. Apparently, this is OSAP or ATIP or I don't know one of these programs that had footage, crystal clear 4K footage of a giant round mass traveling at 500 knots. And this is a massive thing, like bigger than, he's like the size of a city block. And it was traveling at 500 knots. There's like 500 miles an hour. Underwater.
Okay.
And this was spotted out by like an oil rig and like multiple witnesses and like top down footage of it. So I'm guessing satellite footage. He didn't want to divulge that, but put it together. He said it was round, so I assume it's from the top. So it's probably satellite footage. But yeah, this thing traveling. And then also Tim Gallaudet, who's a Navy Rear Admiral, also said that they had encountered large crafts moving at 400 to 500 knots underwater.
That's unreal.
Yeah.
That's unreal.
Yeah, so I mean...
especially something that size, we're not talking about a pencil moving at 500 knots, but
no.
A city block moving at that. You're not doing that without really advanced technology.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like that would be the place to look while everyone's looking up in the sky and into space, maybe a lot more of the activity. And that would probably explain why the Navy was so heavily invested.
I think I'm just under the impression they happened onto it at one time, and they were just, they had dibs on it. They ran into it in some way, and it became theirs.
Yeah, because like a lot of the, when you came out initially with this is the first time people heard about an intact sort of crash retrieval or a retrieval of like a spaceship. Every I say spaceship, but again, maybe it lived in the ocean. But these things, tended through stories at least to be debris or wrecks or everything else. So, I mean, if the Navy finds these intact in the water, it would put them at the front of, this whole thing. It's really interesting. Okay. Last, I want to just ask you about a few people. Travis Walton. You're familiar with his story?
Yeah.
So what I find fascinating about Travis, other than his testimony, because I do believe I believe he's telling the truth as he knows it. I think
Luigi, I think knows him well or met him, and he sounds like an interesting guy to talk to. I hope to in the future at some point I get to talk to him. Yeah,
well, I'd be honored to facilitate that event if ever you choose to. I'll move mountains. I think that would be really interesting because one of the reasons is the craft that he describes. I mean, it sounds a lot like the craft that you worked on.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Even so much as sort of the arches. Now with his craft, he saw it. The only time he saw like the exterior was he was always under it. But it had those sort of like arches under it, right? When it glowed. So it was like glowing. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so there was, I've always thought that like you guys should meet and talk about this craft because there might
I'd like to.
There might be some similarities. The second similarity of crafts, and this is where it becomes a little bit more contentious with, I'm sure, a lot of people out there, Billy Meier.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've seen Billy Meier images. Like, Luigi has a poster of one. I mean, one of them, come on, it looks exactly like the sport model.
Yeah.
It looks exactly like it. So you can't tell me that's a fake picture. It's impossible.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's where it becomes, like, incredibly confusing with Billy Meier, because you look at some of his other photos, and I'm sure that you feel this way too.
Yeah, some of them are nonsense.
You're like, what is this?
Yeah.
This is, like, almost like a...
but this is something I think a friend of mine, Gene Huff, called UFO researcher syndrome. You get some of these guys that are really into it, and they start bringing some facts forward and, begin to get attention. They, give lectures and things like that. And then, maybe they had some initial sighting or information. They work for the Navy or Air Force or something. And, it kind of dies away and they begin missing the attention. And then their story begins to expand a little bit. And, oh, wait, I forgot to tell you, and, their attention comes back and, that keeps increasing. And then also the Martian said, and, and then you have some, ridiculous thing. And I think, my own personal opinion, I think Billy Meier did have some sighting, got some pictures that were authentic. And look, at the time in the 70s, there was nothing. There was a Polaroid, and it's not like you can fake anything.
Yeah.
He got a lot of attention, a lot of press and all that. And he was just a one-on farmer in Switzerland, if I recall. And, just a lonely guy out there.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden he's in all the news and all that. And then that began to fade away. And I think the same thing happened, or at least possibly that, wait, here's another flying saucer I forgot to tell you about. That looks like a cake, Billy, right?
Yeah.
And it has golf balls stuck to it and sitting in his driveway with a string attached to it. So, yeah, I mean, some of them look ridiculous, but, I can't explain the similarity to, the sport model. That's why I'm convinced that's an actual photograph.
If I pull out, I have a book here. If I pull it out, could you point the one you're referring to?
Yeah, sure.
Not this one.
Yeah, no. Yeah, you're there. Yeah.
All of these?
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
Even so much as the
Yeah. I mean,
there's
look.
the underside.
Yeah.
He's got quite a few.
Yeah. I'm sorry. That's it. Now, I mean, and I even mentioned that. I don't know if I got the amount of humps right.
The rings.
Yeah. Sometimes it looks different. Maybe it's a different, but I mean, that's it.
The sort of portholes or whatever those are.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm 100% behind those.
Yeah.
100%. There's no way Billy could have gotten that without seeing it.
Yeah.
So he might have seen this, and then as time went on, other things happened and other crafts came into being.
Yep.
Yeah. Right. But
do you think there's a possibility that and this is like purely speculative, that afterwards Billy might have been like messed with or something?
That's also a possibility too.
Because seeing something like that, putting those photos, that's a big deal.
Yeah, especially back then.
Yeah, especially that craft. The amount of security that was behind that craft. They did not fly that around willy-nilly.
No, they're not cruising over Switzerland. No, not at all. Yeah, that's possible. He's a single guy, in the mountains of Switzerland somewhere.
Yeah.
You're not going to let a guy ruin your security.
Yeah. Yeah, that's always stuck out with me too, is that like it's such a bizarre thing because you mention Billy Meier in today's, day and age, people automatically.
Yeah, absolutely. And
They
I mean, from what I've seen, some of the stuff just looks
some of the stuff's ridiculous.
absolutely ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. And then there's the whole Semyaze, which again, I don't know, is it true? Is it not? Like, look at this.
Come on, it's
a hubcap with
it's nonsense.
Yeah,
it's 100%.
I could build a better UFO.
Yeah.
But then the original ones are so. And as a photographer, I love photography. I love it. Like, I mean, the composition and everything, like they were beautiful photos.
Yeah.
Like really, really beautiful photos.
Yeah, but something changed.
Yeah.
So, but I don't claim to know what's going on. I just know that craft looks a lot like the craft that I worked on.
Yeah.
I mean, 95%.
Yeah.
And how do you explain that?
Yeah. Wow. Incredible. All right, Bob, I got a few questions from some interns. So we have this membership, and interns can ask questions to the guests. They don't know that they're getting to ask you questions as we're pre-recording this. This is, only coming out later when the documentary is released. So they had no idea that I was, going to have a podcast with you. But I asked them in our little channel. I was like, hey guys, just, fun little question. Like, if you could ask Bob one thing, what would it be? And like people just started chiming in. So I grabbed a few of those questions and I'm going to pull them up here. I have to just go turn this camera on. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Aren't those crazy?
Yeah.
Like here, some of them are really interesting because if you look at like, that one looks a little sus, but if you look at these ones, there's one right here. There's double exposure because the craft moved.
Oh, that's interesting. I've never seen this book.
This is a fascinating book. This was a gift from Luigi, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, Luigi gave me I think he gave me a picture book. It's much thinner and has, a few, not this many pictures in it, but a few of, the sport model.
Yep. They referred to it as a sport model?
I referred to it as a sport model, and everybody picked that up.
Really?
Yeah. After that, it was the sport model.
It was the sport model. Does look like a sport model.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's something.
Down to the antenna. That's like right there. You see it right there.
Yeah. Even that picture looks weird to me. Well, there's...
Yeah, I don't know if that's multiple or if it's long exposure, if it's bouncing around. I don't know. Some of them, but again, some of them look real.
Yeah, and some of them look absolutely fabricated.
Yeah, they look completely fabricated. So, and you know what? He's still around. It'd be nice to hear from him and to get something, get him. I just don't know if...
I think Luigi talked to him.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I would love to see something come from that, to be honest. He's somebody I think still needs to be heard in terms of that, because I think there is something there, obviously, with the craft. All right, I'm going to pull this up. I got to pull my phone out for this. Here's the first question. This is from a gentleman named Bobski. Probably my favorite question.
How was the food at S4? It was just what do you call those machines? Just
vending machines?
Yeah, it was just vending machine.
Like sandwiches and stuff?
Yeah.
It was like EG&G vending machines? Or?
No, it was, they were actually old, just generic food vending machines. They had M&Ms and stuff in there, and one, they had another one that gave you either coffee or this imitation chicken soup or hot chocolate, and they had ones that had some sandwiches in there. I never had a sandwich from there, but what
was your go-to?
My go-to was the crackers with the peanut butter in them.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah.
Just crackers and peanut butter?
Yeah.
Low carb diet. We'll do all right, we got another one here. Yeah, this seems like a good question. This is from Hara.
asks, if you could have taken one small item from the hangar with you, what would it be?
That's a tough one. From the hangar.
Or from the lab.
That's kind of a trick question there.
Why is it a trick question?
Boy, I just don't want to get into that.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Yep.
Yeah.
Feel free. Yeah, that's fine. There was a story of
don't
a
go
burger
there.
camera.
Okay, yeah, there was that.
Yeah.
But that wasn't in the hangar.
Oh, that wasn't in the hangar.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell that story?
Yeah, sure. I went at the time. It was later on in there. I went to Burger King in the morning, and at that time, there were no iPhones or digital cameras or anything. Everything was on film, and they had 110 film cartridges, which were small, about that big, and had a little round area on each side where the film would go. And Burger King had, I think, if you bought a Whopper, they had a camera, which is just a very small piece that would just snap on to the 110 cartridge and turn it into a camera. So you could take pictures like that, but it only made it like maybe 2.5 inches long by 3/4 of an inch. So like a rectangle like that. And that I knew I can get into F4. So to fast forward a bit, my desk had hollow steel legs on it.
Yeah, kind of like these.
Yeah,
almost.
yeah.
But with like holes in them?
No. The bottoms were open because one of them had, the little plastic caps was missing. So I know it was hollow. So I actually managed to take a single picture of the craft by opening the door. And I put the camera in the leg, not knowing, because I wanted to see if I could come and go. But I never got to take it out again. So the camera and the picture are still at S4 in that leg. But
wow. All right. Well, if anybody's working at S4 right now that's watching this,
yeah,
do us a favor, grab that camera, upload that picture.
Yeah,
we want to see it.
Yeah,
that would be so wild that the best picture of a UFO would be taken from a little like a fast food camera or whatever.
I mean, actually, to answer the question, I may have already done that. Okay.
Yep. Good enough. All right. This one's interesting.
So, gentleman, picture a secret tunnel is his handle, and he asks, it's a great question. Do you ever wish
you could forget what you saw?
Oh, no, not at all. No, I want to see it again. I want to know more about everything there. That I sleep thinking about that technology.
If you could ask somebody who worked at S4 right now, right? If you could talk to them right now, what's something you'd ask?
What did you find out? Where did we go from there? I mean, tell me anything.
Yeah.
Tell me, how was the power generated? How did the components communicate to each other? What range did they work at? Just tell me anything. Fill in any blank at all. It's like having a crossword puzzle with nothing in it. Just please put a letter anywhere, and I'd be happy. So that's where I'd be. Anything, any word that came out of his mouth would be I'd be super happy.
And if you could give advice to somebody on their first day at S4, what would that be?
Just follow the rules. Don't be a jerk. Just go along with the project, or else you'll regret it.
Balbazar, I appreciate your time. This has been, for me, just one of the greatest experiences of my career, getting to speak with you on camera. So
well, thank you.
Yeah, I'm very, very grateful that you were able to do this and that we were able to connect in this way. It means a lot to me, so thank you. I wish you luck with Project Gravitator and S4, the Bob Lazar story.
Thank you.
And I hope that one day you get the answers that you seek.
Me too.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.